Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I wanted to talk about some characters from the DC universe that I would like to see pop up in the whole Arrowverse situation. If you're unaware what the Arrowverse is, it is the DC TV universe that exists on the CW, I mean, at least here in the States, which involves like currently Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow. And these are just a list of characters that I'm slightly aware of from the little bit of DC knowledge that I have that I'd like to see kind of pop up in the show. One person I'd like to see pop up in the show is Booster Gold. He's a character I'm not that familiar with, so it'd be a great opportunity to learn more about him. The little bit I do know about him is the general gist of what his story typically is, and I don't know if this applies to all canon, but typically his story is basically he's an athlete from the future. I think particularly a football player. He got injured, his career was over, and he kind of fell out of the spotlight, and just to feel special again, to be something special, he went back in time to try and become a superhero, which he kind of does in his own right, but it's just kind of like he had his selfish reasons for becoming a hero. I don't think he has any powers. I think it's just a situation of he has like high-tech stuff with him, so I think he'd be kind of like a nice addition. I feel like amongst any shows he'd most likely pop up in, potentially either The Flash or Legends. Flash, I could see that happening just because, like, you know, out of any of the shows, it is the most science fictional, you know, that and Supergirl, because it could flow in Supergirl as well. But I say Legends is because he is from the future, so maybe he could bump into the Legends and help them out, you know. That, I mean, either way, I think he'd be a kind of a nice addition in any shape or form. I don't know if he'd be like a regular character. He might be someone that just pops in every once in a while type of situation, but I don't know. Kind of along those same lines is another person on my list, and that is Blue Beetle, who I don't know if it's across all comic books, but I do know here and there like him and Booster Gold are kind of buddied up. I'm still not 100% sure about his background, like, because I think it's different. Like some stuff, it's like maybe almost like a curse-like situation, because basically he wears this like Blue Beetle suit that's kind of like high-tech, supernatural, mystical angle. I think typically it's some alien tech is what his story typically is behind those things. So I don't know. It's very interesting. I'd like to see him kind of pop up. I feel like, once again, one of those superheroes I feel like would pop up on more science fictional stuff. So maybe like The Flash or Supergirl, or, you know, potentially Legends maybe, especially if you do introduce Booster Gold. Another on the list is Bart Allen, aka Impulse. If you're unfamiliar with who Bart is, spoilers, he is Barry Allen's grandson. Now, Impulse is someone I potentially threw out there, like even back in season 3 of him potentially popping up. The reason why is because I thought Savitar at the time, I thought Savitar was from much further in the future, and he came back in time to be like Barry's antagonist. I thought he kind of had like a similar thing to Eobard. Turns out his situation's a little bit different at most. Without going into spoilers, in case you're not caught up on The Flash, like, he's not that far into the future. In fact, he's from basically the same time period as Barry, is what it kind of gets revealed. Like, it's not until you find out exactly who Savitar's true identity is from. It's like, oh, I thought you're from like the distant future. At most, because that's when Barry dealt with you, you're from 9 years in the future is when you kind of got sealed away and everything with this whole storyline. Because Barry from 2024 is the one that kind of dealt with him. And so it's just kind of interesting to me. So at that time, I was like, oh, because we're dealing with the future, we could potentially have Barry's grandson pop up, which not too far all currently where the Flash stands with certain things. Obviously trying not to get into spoilers, but certain stuff is popping up about the future, so you could potentially see him pop up in the Flash. Could easily pop up in Legends too, because they do travel to the future on occasion, so they could end up bumping into him. But I mean, if him most likely popping up on the Flash could happen relatively soon, but I kind of feel like that'd probably be quite a bit down into, like, especially with certain things that popped up, like especially in the season 4 finale. It's like, yeah, that'd be like too soon. Also, it turns into that situation of like, well, would that be too many speedsters at one time? You've already got Wally, you got Jesse, you got Jay, you've also got someone else that's popped up as a speedster, once again avoiding spoilers. So like I said, I feel like that'd be too soon, but potentially I feel like the room is definitely there to be like, hey, like that, it's a very strong possibility, and I feel like most likely will happen. It's just probably just going to be much later on in the story. The next person on my list is Damian Wayne. If you're unfamiliar, he is the son of Batman and Talia, Ra's al Ghul's eldest child. I don't know where he stands in his current continuity in the Batman comics, because I'm pretty sure he's not Robin anymore, but he is like the most recent Robin that I'm aware of. I think he's number 5. But I think he could easily pop up in the show because, for one, a big person I'm sure a lot of people will want to see pop up in the Arrowverse is Batman himself, which I don't know if they necessarily do that because there's already the Gotham situation going on. I mean, obviously Gotham's like a prequel, but still. But I mean, there have been references to him all across the Arrowverse. In particular, on Earth 38, Kara made a reference like when Jimmy was running around being Guardian. Like, she wasn't too keen on the idea because she's like, oh yeah, mass vigilante. It's like, my cousin already deals with like a dude running around in a mask anyway. So there, they've even referenced him on Earth 1 as well, because Oliver's referenced Bruce Wayne. There's even a line from Vandal Savage, which I can never remember if it was in the trailers only or did it actually pop up in the show, but he was like, I've seen Man of Steel fall and Dark Knight rise. I think it was kind of the line, so it's there. But I feel like even if you didn't want to add in Batman, you could at least add in that angle. I mean, it'd be weird having a Robin without, you know, Batman there, but it's like his story could fit because there's already the League of Assassins in Arrow. But then again, like, obviously it's a situation where it's like, well, there's Talia, so she is there in the story. I mean, granted, we haven't seen her subsequently since the whole Lian Yu situation at the end of season 5. That's kind of the last time we saw her. I think I could have sworn that when Nyssa popped back up in season 6, she referenced Talia. I just can't remember. I'm sure she's still alive and kicking in that world, but I doubt there's like a whole child situation going on right now, which does leave potential for Legends of Tomorrow because of the whole future thing. It's like, oh, they could end up running into it in that manner, but I mean, who knows? I think he'd be very interesting to see because he does have the ties, obviously, because he's Talia's child, like having the whole tie to the League of Assassins or Shadows, whichever one you refer to him as. Obviously, in Arrow, it's the League of Assassins. But then again, part of me thinks that would probably be very unlikely too, because Thea kind of plays that role to a certain extent. Like, obviously, her story seems like it's probably all going to take place like off screen, but like her story kind of plays into that, like her being Malcolm's daughter and kind of being like the next heir and everything to it. I mean, it could pop up into a very interesting way because you could also have him popping up being like, yo, I'm the rightful heir because I'm the child of one of the children of the Demon's Head situation. So I don't know, we'll totally see. I mean, it'd be a nice addition because that way you would get a Robin, which would kind of tie into a Batman thing even more so. So I don't know. And also on that same subject of Robins, it is kind of interesting because it would be in that weird area too, because there's a whole like live action Teen Titans show that was supposed to be happening. I have not heard about it in a while, mainly because I haven't looked into it too much. The fact is that the last I heard from it was that they had cast someone as Robin, so that'd probably be a whole thing in itself. But I mean, that could potentially also open up for like Teen Titan characters too, because you could easily have, like, I feel like out of anyone, Starfire, who could easily pop up on Supergirl, because Supergirl is kind of like the alien show to a certain extent, so that could be like something that ends up happening. Maybe not, but I think it'd be kind of a nice touch. Another person on my list, and that's Superboy. In fact, it's kind of interesting because Superboy was the person I thought that was going to end up being in the pod at the end of season 1, which in retrospect, I guess that doesn't really make as much sense, because if you're unfamiliar with Superboy's storyline, well, I guess it could make sense, but Superboy is kind of a clone that basically he's made, depending on what continuity you go by. His earlier continuity was that he was a clone made from Lex's DNA and Superman's DNA. And then later on continuity, and I think it's the current continuity, is that basically there's an alien species he's made from and Superman's DNA. It's the same storyline that Superboy comes from in Young Justice. Either way would be pretty neat to add in there, but I guess at the same time for me it's like, well, Mon-El kind of feels that like Superboy role to a certain degree, so I don't know if they do that as well. I mean, it could be, it all depends on where Mon-El's story takes him, because he could end up going back to the future and continuing being a Legionnaire, so there's that. So it could open that realm of possibility, because it would also be that complication of like, oh yeah, like there's a Superboy kind of Superman clone out there. It could also, like I said, it depends on what they do, because they could make him like half Lex. That'd be interesting. Or you could make it just like, oh, he's that half alien species, and that could be like part of the overarching story of the season is dealing with them. Because I even brought it up in season 2 of him potentially popping up in the show, but that's only because Magon popped up, you know, Miss Martian. So it's like, oh, and then I was like, oh, that's just me being selfish, because I just want Young Justice to pop up in live action wise. I knew that was just my only justification for it. Kind of really quick quickly, another person I think about adding is the Question. He's a character I'm not that familiar with. He kind of has like this whole like detective thing going on about him. Like I said, he's a character I'm only slightly familiar with because of the Justice League cartoons. He's the dude that has no face, but to my understanding, he kind of works like a PI or something like that, which you could easily have him popping up in different shows. Like he could easily pop up in, I feel like Arrow might be a nice fit for him, but also the Flash, just because you have the whole, it's kind of spoilers for the Flash. Well, yes and no. It's a whole Ralph situation. Ralph was a PI and stuff like that, so a potential like PI that him and Barry end up coming across in the future, that could be a situation. I don't know if that's a character that necessarily would kind of get the screen time. Like I said, he plays that angle of being a detective or something like that, so I don't know. I think the reason why I put Arrow up there, because like the whole crime drama aspect to it, you could have like a detective kind of angle to that show, adding in a character like him. Another person I feel like we could potentially get is Static Shock. Once again, sci-fi angle, so I feel like amongst any shows you can definitely get him in Supergirl or The Flash. Potentially Black Lightning too, but I think I remember the creators behind Black Lightning really being specific about like, oh yeah, we're not going to put those two together. We want, because it's the whole situation of Black Lightning is kind of supposed to be on his own, so I doubt they're going to set up other, I mean, they could set up other superheroes, but right now it's just him, like Black Lightning and Thunder kind of working together. And it's kind of interesting me throwing it out there too, because it's like, well, Black Lightning, it's still kind of up in the air. I don't think technically that's part of the Arrowverse. I've talked about that when the initial trailers came out. I remember reading that that's kind of like they're kind of keeping that potentially separate. So I don't know, maybe in the future they might tie it into the Arrowverse, because we still don't know whether like, oh, that's taking place on Earth 1 in a different continuity, or is it just kind of like, no, it's like Supergirl and it's taking place on its own Earth. So I don't know, I think it'd be pretty neat to see Static Shock pop up, especially because I was a fan of the cartoon, so I'd like to see that kind of pop up. But then again, it's like, well, we already have Black Lightning, but if they did decide to do that, it'd be interesting, because obviously, like, I mean, it's interesting because Black Lightning's got his own situation with Thunder and, spoiler alert, you know, Jennifer's situation too, so probably wouldn't be looking forward to kind of getting someone else under his tutelage, all, you know, when he already has other people too. I don't know, it could be an angle, I don't know, it'd be interesting. So another on the list I think would be interesting is Dr. Fate, another hero I'm not that familiar with. I feel like if anything, Dr. Fate would probably pop up maybe in a crossover situation, like whatever big baddie that you're dealing with, I feel like Dr. Fate would be there. I feel like if it's Dr. Fate, we might be dealing with some like heavy level DC like trouble, not like dark side heavy. I mean, you never know, they could potentially do that. That could be like a big crossover thing. I don't know if they do that because like the whole DCEU situation is already setting that up, but I mean, it's still kind of like, it's their different continuity, so they can kind of do whatever they want to. At least I think they would. I don't know if there'd be too much of an issue with that or not. I actually did a video recently talking about like how like you do have superheroes popping up in movies and in a TV show with the whole DC universe thing, but nevertheless, it'd be very interesting, because I know he's kind of on that like cosmic level of things. So it's hard to say what show he would pop up in. Like I said, I feel like a crossover would be the best time to introduce him, just because of his whole thing. Like he could be kind of one thing that kind of ends up uniting a lot of the heroes, because none of the shows are outright magical. I'd make the argument the only one that probably could, because I feel like he falls in that category of like magic, like it's like almost like cosmic magic. So maybe Legends, especially him being Dr. Fate, seeing everything, it fit very perfectly with the Legends who do the whole time traveling thing. Kind of like, oh yeah, time and space are kind of collapsing and stuff like that. Dr. Fate pops up to kind of lend a hand here and there, or at least guide the Legends potentially. I don't know. That's where my mindset is. Like I said, he's a character I'm not that familiar with. I've seen him pop up in like Smallville, Young Justice, he plays a role, and possibly the Justice League stuff. I don't remember if he popped up in Justice League or Justice League Unlimited. I can't remember. Another on my list is the Hawks. Now, obviously, the Hawks have actually popped up. If you don't remember, they were a part of the Legends back in season 1. I'd actually like them to come back, because obviously they've kind of been off, like they left the Legends at the end of season 1. I'd like them to come back for multiple reasons, because I feel like their story's kind of obviously still not completely done. I mean, Vandal Savage was kind of their main thing, and it's something I've talked about in the show when I've done like the not too comic books about it. I definitely brought it up during season 1. I think I might have brought it up in season 2 as well. Is potentially the fact is that the Hawks, their storyline is kind of, they've got one of those mixed backgrounds when their story too. It's because in some continuity, their whole situation is a curse. Like kind of what Legends kind of plays it into. It's like, it's a curse of like reincarnation is why they are what they are. They die and they always come back. They're actually from like ancient Egypt type of situation. But there's other continuity where they're actually aliens. Like in the Justice League cartoon, they were an alien species of Hulk people. And the reason why I bring them up in that regard is because when you actually take certain aspects of their continuity, like the whole reason why, and it's something that hasn't really come back in the storyline, is the reason why Earth was so okay with Vandal Savage kind of going all dictator-like is because he actually helped defend Earth from like an alien invasion in the future. The planet that invades them is the same group of people that the Hulks belong to. I don't know if necessarily the Hulk people are the ones who invaded or not, but the planet that's referenced is the planet they're from in the continuity where they're aliens, which could fit in Legend's whole situation because it was like a meteorite hitting that led to Vandal Savage being the way he is, as well as like the Hulks being the way that they are. Like I said, it's kind of a curse situation, but Legends kind of makes it kind of a curse slash alien situation. So that could be potentially something they could end up setting up or continuing or going back to. I don't know. That depends on them. And the final person on my list is Zatanna. Another character I'm not that familiar with, but I do want to know a little bit here and there. She's kind of like one of the magic people, and it's kind of the same conversation about like that I have about the MCU. It's like, yo, we could do with a little bit more magic, and I think she'd be like a great addition to it. It's interesting because back in season 4 during the whole Damien Dark situation where it's like, oh yeah, Oliver wanted to counter Damien Dark's magic, he'd need light magic of his own. I was like, oh my god, they're going to set up Zatanna, aren't they? It's like, turned out not to be the case. It was someone else entirely. Maybe it's someone from the comic books, but it's a person I wasn't that familiar with. I thought that could have been a prime example to bring in Zatanna, but obviously Arrow hasn't really circled back around to the whole magic thing. Probably never will. I don't know. But I feel like she's a good addition that could pop up. I feel like amongst any continuity, she'd probably pop up in Supergirl, because it's something I feel like that doesn't come up too much during Supergirl. It's something I didn't really know until Smallville really pointed it out. But like Kryptonians' main weaknesses isn't just kryptonite. Magic can really mess them up too. Obviously, fighting someone just as strong as them, or if not stronger, is a whole thing too. I just think like, because like there's not really anyone that really actively does magic in those shows. The closest one is Constantine, but someone who does magic on a more regular basis would be kind of interesting to kind of add into the circulation of the show. I guess you could make the argument that the totem bearers kind of represent kind of magic to a certain degree. So like Zari in particular kind of fills that void to a certain degree, but I think someone like outright more magical could potentially pop up. I think that'd be kind of interesting. So it is kind of interesting because even in the Supergirl regard, there is the whole Mixoplex, which I'm sure I'm like mispronouncing his name because I completely forgot how to pronounce it, but the fifth dimension dude on Supergirl, like he kind of borderlines on the whole magic angle too, so there's that. These are just a few people that I kind of had in the back of my mind. I'd love to know your thoughts about anyone that I brought up on the list, some people that you would potentially like to see in the Arrowverse. Let me know. Go as much or as little detail as you want to, because obviously, once again, I'm not that familiar with comic books, so I know there's a large cast of people that I'm just not adding in all just because I'm not aware. So like I said, let me know your thoughts and suggestions about who you'd like to see in the Arrowverse in the comments down below. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.